Hi everyone, it's Mike here and welcome back to my YouTube channel. So I've had the word Veritas buzzing around in the back of my head for the last few days. So to get rid of it, I need to work it out into an art journal. So let me turn over to my other camera and I'll show you what I'm going to do. So I'm working in, again, one of the last few remaining pages of my 8x8 journal. This is the journal I've been doing the grungy pages in well, since the beginning of January. And today is going to be no different. So I've got a collection of different paints and finishes here. I've got red oxide, yellow ochre. I've got this colour which looks like almost like a peachy colour, but actually it's called mustard. This is one of the new ones I've just recently purchased. I've got the Deco Art Americana light buttermilk, not much left in there, but I've got two kind of gold colours. This one, which is an older goldy kind of brassy colour, and this new one, which is brand new from Indigo Blue, which is called Goldilocks, which is a light, I would class this more as a champagne gold, if you like. Although it's a gold colour, I suspect that the metallic element in that is probably more silvery, whereas in that it's more yellowy, more goldy, more silvery. It's a silvery gold, if you know what I mean, whereas that's more of a brassy yellowy gold. So those are the kind of colours that I'm going to be using today in the background. We're going to start off with the red oxide. So I've got that red oxide. So traditionally, this is the colour that painters back in the day would use as the ground for their main paintings. So people like Leonardo would have used like yellow ochres and red oxides. But the red oxide also is used for gilding. So for example, if you have like an old gilt picture frame or mirror that's got like a real kind of Rococo Baroque style decoration on it, and it's been gilded with gold leaf and it's cracked and you can see red underneath it, that's what this is. So that's the red, kind of red oxide-y colour. So it's perfect as an undercolour for adding gold. So what I'm going to do today is I'm going to put a fair amount of this down into the background. Lovely kind of red oxide-y colour, lovely rusty red, earthy red. And I'm going to give it a couple of coats. It'll soak in pretty quickly, but I want to give it a real decent kind of colour coat. And I'm going to leave the edges. I'm not going up to the edges. A nice grounding on that page. So just keep adding it. I like the brush strokes. So the more it soaks in, the better. Alright, so that's going to be my first coat. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to give that a quick blast with my heat gun, and then once that's dry, I'm going to go over it with another coat. That's now dry, so it's time to go over with the second coat. So I was just thinking to myself, this colour reminds me of dried blood, sanguine. Which isn't a bad thing, really. Like I said, you're not going to see much of this because there will be another coat over the top. we go, which is why I'm putting it on, I'm laying it on thick. Lovely stuff. Okay, I think that's going to do it. So throw my paintbrush into some water, put that away, again, get this dried off, and then I'll be right back. Alright, so that second coat has now dried quite nice. So I've now got my Polyvine acrylic Crackle Glaze, which is what I used recently on the back of the Dragonfly canvas. There, you see that beautiful crackle. That's the effects we're going for on the art journal page. So this time we'll paint a load of that Crackle Glaze onto the page, and you know you've got plenty on because it's shiny. Okay, make sure I get plenty on. Right, so what I'll need to do now is I will need to leave this to dry au naturel. So what I'll do is I'll let that sit and dry. It should only take between a quarter of an hour and an hour. But what I'll do is I'll go away and have some lunch and leave that sitting and drying. When I come back, it probably will still be shiny, but possibly not as shiny as that. Right, see you after lunch. It's been a good 3/4 of an hour, and that's dry to the touch, so that's fine. That's exactly what we need. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to get, I should have remembered to open these first, shouldn't I? I'm going to use this new colour, which is the mustard colour. So I'll just remove that plastic film. I've got to remember as well that there's a cardboard one in the lid. Should have really done this before I started filming, shouldn't I? Yeah. Yuck. Yuck, 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 yuck. Alright, so the cardboard one. That's it. That just stops it from leaking in transport. So just make sure that's tight. Give it a good shake, because who knows how long this has been sat on the shelf. And we'll put a fair dollop. And now you see that the yellow ochre and the mustard are practically the same. So, but I want a lighter colour, so I'm going to mix some of the buttermilk in with it. And I know there's a lot on the mat there, but I need a lot because I want some decent sized crackles. And if you don't put plenty of paint on, then the chances are you won't get lots of crackle. So I'm going to start, and I'm going to go across the page this way. Plenty of paint on, continuous sweep, and then you look, the crackle should start appearing pretty much instantaneous like. which they are doing. Should have gone over that end bit there. But not to worry. That should, like I said, that will start crackling rather lovely. I mean, look at all that. Fantastic. Now you can either heat it with the heat gun, or you can let it dry au naturel, which is exactly what I'm going to do. So I'll have a quick clean up, tidy up, and then I'll be back. So the crackle has pretty much dried now. So what I want to do is I want to add some kind of grungy dirtiness around the edges, not where the white is, just where the colour is. I'm going to start trying to blur those kind of boundaries. So to do that, I'm going to use some Faber-Castell Artist Pick Pens. So these are the ones that allow you to add some blending, but providing you get in there while it's still wet, you can blend with your finger and create a nice kind of border. Nice bit of grunginess. I'll go all the way around the outside. It works better over the top of paint because it's got something to act as a barrier. Let's just flip that over. Still a bit loose up there. That's okay. So this colour actually is actually called sanguine, which is what the colour was that I said that red oxide reminded me of. Okay. So now we've got that, I'm going to come back in this time with this is called, well, it says green gold on it. But to me, this is more kind of, again, yellow ochre-y. I just want to go around just adding in a little bit of that into that background. Just be careful up there. That's just still manoeuvred a little bit. It's not quite dried up in that corner, which I thought it had done. But that's all right. It's ages since I've played with these Pick Pens. I really ought to use them more. They're India ink, if I haven't already said. I sometimes forget to mention it, because I never remember whether I have mentioned it or not. Which means you've got a few seconds to blend and play with them while they're still wet, but as soon as they're dry, that's it, they're permanent. I'm not worried too much about this corner here, because that's where my focal point for the journal page is going to go. So let's just add a bit of that into the background. just to kind of break it up a little. Okay. And then maybe just a little bit more of that reddish colour. Like that. Like it a lot. Right. So I'm going to give that a quick blast over with the heat gun and give my fingers a clean because I've got ink all over them, bits of paint all over them now. So give that a quick blast over with the heat gun and then I'll join you again in a few moments. So I've gone over everything with that heat gun, tried to make it as dry as possible. It's now cooled down a bit. So originally I was going to add some gold highlights using these two paint colours. I'm not going to use that one this time. I'll save that one for another day, that Goldilocks. I'm going to stick with the greener gold or the more yellowy gold. I'll just burst that bubble. Because I want it to stand out a bit more. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to mix it with water. So I've got my new pump action bottle. So let's get that mixed up. More paint. Nice and fluid. A little bit more water, a bit more gentle than the other pump action bottles. Okay, and then we can start adding that gold quite heavily into the background. All right. So let's get that dried up there. Okay, so before it dries off, if it's gone a bit too heavy in certain areas, I can just go in with the cloth and just lift it off. So let's just break up that bit there. Leave that splatter where it is. I think I'm happy with that placement. So again, I'll need to get that dried off. I'll be right back. Okay, so that's pretty much dried now, but I'm going to leave that just to let the heat dissipate a little bit. I can feel it coming off the page. So I've already cut out my main focal point. So this is from an Eastern European religious icon. It's not of Jesus though. It's of one of the saints or the apostles because there's no halo. On the original image there was no halo around him. So I'm not really sure who it is because I don't speak Eastern European. That looks like Cyrillic writing on the book to me, presuming it is the Bible or some form of holy book. And what I'm doing is I'm just going around the edges just to get rid of those kind of like raw white bits where I've cut it out, just with a pair of scissors on this one. And I'm just using, again, another Faber-Castell Pitt pen. This is just a smaller one, it's not a big, not a big brush, this is just an ordinary sized one. So I think that's just about it. It's just to hide those kind of raw white edges. I did do a print out earlier, but the colour wasn't quite right, so I'd had to adjust it. So this was attempt number 2, but rather than waste the paper, I just printed on the reverse. Okay, I think we're just about there. That is going to go just down here in that bottom corner there. So I'll need some fairly strongish glue. Let me just try and bend that back a little bit. I've got a clip somewhere. There we go. That might just help to hold it all down. If I just do it across the corner there. There's nothing worse than trying to glue something down and then finding it's curling up. Curly page edges. That's better. Right, let's get some glue. So this is Grab and Go. It's just a heavy PVA. So just go around the outside. And what I'll do just on the hand, so I'll just go over that with my fingers because I don't want the fingers to stick up. Yeah, I'll just use the cloth that had all that paint on it. So now I'm just going to get it all over my fingers. Messy boy. I'm sure that won't be the first time I've done that, and I'm sure it won't be the last. Right. So let's stick that down about there. That's the reason why I put it on the fingers, so that it would hold them down. But you could just put something heavy on it if you wanted, just to hold it down while it sticks and grabs. But this stuff is usually pretty good. It does it fairly quick, which is why it's called Grab and Go. It's good for your chipboard and wood elements as well. Okay, so we'll leave that for a minute or two. I shall go sort out my quote and phrase for the art journal page, and then I'll be right back. So while the glue's drying, I've just grabbed my my quote for the page, which is in Latin. Veritas multis in locis invenire potest et non solum in libris. Which means truth is found in many places, not only in books. That is my worms of wisdom for the day. Right, so I've got some clear gesso. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to give this a coat of clear gesso over the top. And the reason for this is that I want to add a colour in the background. It's too white. Now if I add colour straight in there with the Faber-Castell Pitt pens, then the colour will just sink immediately in and grab, and I won't be able to smear it or smudge it and get a more diffused effect. So that's why I've gone over with the clear gesso first. If I had a distress wax crayon to hand, I probably would have been able to use that, but I haven't, so I didn't. Literally seconds. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to add it onto the mat, pick it up with my finger. Actually, I might just be able to do it straight over the top. You see how you can actually blend it once you've got the matte medium down. I just didn't want a stark white. And the thing with the Indian ink is that you can go back over, add another layer, and it just builds up. Until you're happy with the colour. I can blend with my finger, I could go in with a Q-tip or a cotton bud or a bit of cotton wool. The pen's starting to dry up. Okay, so now I need my little scissors, and I've put them away, haven't I? Oh, you know what? One of these days I'll forget my head. There we go. Right. So let's get those cut out. I'm not going to cut in straight lines. Deliberately adding a little bit of a wiggle because I don't want it to be perfect. Okay. Lovely, so we'll get rid of all that, and then I'm going to grab distress ink, and then I'm just going to go around the edge just lightly, just to kind of dirty it up a little bit. So when I was deciding what I wanted to do for this page, I had the word Veritas in my head, which means truth. Verity, the name Verity, is taken from the word truth in Latin, Veritas. And I'd had this word banging around inside my skull for a couple of days, and I thought to myself, well, what can it go with? What can I use this word for? And it was either an art journal page with an angel, like Archangel Gabriel or Michael or whatever, but that just didn't kind of ring for me. Then I thought, well, what about a nice kind of Eastern European Orthodox icon, because they're usually carrying books, and that's when it kind of fell into place for me. So that's exactly why we've got what we've got. So what we'll do is, I think we'll put it so it sits there and there, I think. Rather than stick it right at the top, I think let's do it across the middle. And then maybe down there. I think that's going to work. Right, so this time I'm going to use that Elmer's glue, mainly because it's got more of a fine point applicator than the Grab and Go. That's when it's not gummed up and full of schmutz. There we go. It'll teach me not to wipe it off properly. So I'm going to be able to have a thin bead on the bottom. Alright, so put it about there. And then on there. Okay, not done just yet. Make sure I don't get it upside down this time. Just off a little bit to the left there. Maybe just scoop that over just a tad there. Okay, kind of mirroring that yellow colour in the book now, which is good. All right, so I'm going to leave that just to sit for a minute or two, and then I'll be right back. Okay, just to finish off, I want to add just a little bit more detail in the background. So to do that, I'm going to add some stenciling. So this is the Grunge Damask stencil. So if you're interested in this, it's on the website or on my website link below. And I'm just going to add just very lightly in the background. I'm not going to do it really, really heavily. Just want a little bit of an impression. But not a lot, just want a few marks in that background. Just almost ghostly. Just in that background there. And maybe just another one down here. Just like that. Maybe down there. Just to add a little bit of texture, a little bit of background, a little bit of additional brain candy, if you like. I won't say eye candy because 9 times out of 10 you don't even normally see it, but I think I'm kind of happy with that for the time being, but not quite. So what I want to do now is just come in with one of my Stabilo All pencils, and I'm just going to add just a real small amount of shadow just underneath those two little signs there. Now I've got a fine brush. I'm hoping that's going to be, if you'll pardon the expression, stiff enough just to be able to activate that. Very subtle underneath. because it struggles over laser printed images. But just real subtle. When it dries, it'll virtually disappear, but it'll just give you that little bit of lift just to make it look a little bit more 3D, but only a little bit. Okay, so let's get dried up, tidied up, and then we'll be back to sign and date. So I'm just sat looking at it, and my brain is telling me it still needs something else up here. So I think I might have to add a little bit of script, but not a lot. Right, let's see if I've got that should do that size. Hold on. So these are a new set of very thin skinny minis, but I'm going to call these, just the nickname for these are going to be my kitties, because they look like cat's ears. So these have got more of a pronounced double-handed. These will be going on the website fairly soon. I'm not sure about what the size is to do just yet, but maybe that does need to have a bigger one. I've got to work out costings. These are also thicker acrylic than the skinny minis. That's better. That's going to be a better size. The skinny minis are on 2mm clear acrylic. These are on 3mm, so they're at least 1,000 microns thicker. Okay, so I think maybe just a light touch. Just a very, very light touch. Don't want a lot. Let's take it off the block. Let's just take it off that block. And then, you know what was going to happen. Yeah. Let's add some more glue on the back. Oh, so we have second generation stamping now. That's more like it. So there's just a little bit, but it's only light. That's it. That's what my brain was telling me. It just needed just a little bit more of a little something over in that top corner. So we've just gone over that with a little bit of stays on. I'll come back and clean that in a minute. I need alcohol for that and I don't have any to hand. Right, so let's just go in then and quickly sign and date. So I must remember now that it is 2024. So it's now 30th of January 24, because I think one of the pages I did the other day, I wrote down 23, but I had to go back later and change it. So there we go. So that is my grungy, crackly art journal page for today. Veritas, I'm naming that. So I hope you've enjoyed watching me create this art journal page today. If you have, please remember to give the video a thumbs up, share it with your friends, and if you haven't subscribed to my YouTube channel already, you can do so by clicking the button at the end of the video. That's all from me for now. I will see you all again very, very soon. Bye for now. I'd like to say a huge thank you to all of my angels, because without you, these videos would not be possible. And don't forget, you can access your exclusive angel-only content over on my website. There's a link in the description area below. Thank you.